I had a six-figure position and I was doing well and I had seniority and in a blink of an eye, a business decision was made, that company was bought out, and now I was back at zero.
This is the How to Quit Working Show. Jeff Steinman believes entrepreneurship is the only true path to freedom. That's why he created the How to Quit Working Show, where you'll hear stories, insights, and inspiration from lifestyle fanatics who left their soul-sucking 9-to-5 job forever. Now, here's your host, author, entrepreneur, and ultimate lifestyle fanatic, Jeff Steinman.
Hello and welcome to the How to Quit Working Show. Happy Monday, everyone. Today we're going to talk to Chris Cerrone of The Cerrone Show. I met Chris, I think it was back in April at an event that we were both at. We had a great time and really hit it off. We kind of think the same way about life and about business and careers and what's really important. And the thing that the thing that made you really want to have Chris on the show is, most folks know I don't have a family. I don't have any kids. But Chris does. And I know that so many of those of you who are listening also have a family. And Chris is really a family guy. And I love that he's going to bring the perspective to the show of how do you quit your job and start a business when you got a family? And then when you've got small kids, he has 2 kids. And when you have small kids, how do you balance that along with everything that you have to do for your business? And how do you really figure out what's important? And I think a lot of the normal things that we think as a society, the stuff like you got to make sacrifices for your kids, Chris is going to kind of flip a little bit of that on its head. So it might be some kind of different perspectives that you'll be hearing from Chris. So it's going to be a great show. Can't wait to get into that. Before we do that, though, I want to read a review that I just noticed this out on iTunes this morning, and it really just kind of blew me away. I'm kind of almost a little speechless, but here it goes. So this reviewer says, I am forever grateful to Jeff Steinman and his How to Quit Working podcast. His show has given me hope that I can leave my job and do the work that truly matters in my life. It has been nerve-wracking to make the plunge and quit my job, but with each episode I hear on my long commute to and from work, I generate the courage to do it and believe this month it is going to happen. Although it's been a tough journey, the show has given me strength, the interviews are amazing, and after long and frustrating days at work, I look forward to riding home because I can just forget about the job and listen to these inspiring interviews that prove I can quit my job. I look forward to sharing with the community that I have clocked in or out of my job for the last time. Thank you, Jeff, for creating this. Your show will be a huge reason why my life will change for the better. Wow. I mean, talk about wanting to make a difference in someone's life and then hearing a story like that. Hope and knowing that you can do it is 90% of the battle, right? If you don't think you can do something, you'll never be able to do it. And I'm so glad that this show has been a part of helping this listener to be able to realize that he or she can do it. I don't know. I don't have a name, so I don't know who it is. But whoever sent that, feel free to email me. I'd love to chat some more. Anyway, I just really thank you for that great review. It really honors and humbles me, and it makes all of this seem like it's worth it and matters. And it's just that reminder of why I'm here and why I'm doing this and what business and entrepreneurship is really all about when it's at its best. Continue the conversation, chat with us, join in the conversation beyond the show. Go over to howtoquitworking.com/group, and that'll send you over to the Facebook group and click join group, and we'll approve your request, and we can start having a chat 24/7 with the rest of the members of the How to Quit Working community and show guests and other successful entrepreneurs as well. I've got some really cool stuff coming up in that community that I'm not quite ready to announce yet, but we're going to have some really fun stuff. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get into talking with Chris Cerrone, my guest on today's show. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm excited.
Oh, it's going to be a blast because like we're kind of birds of a feather in that, we're those guys that worked corporate jobs and we were kind of all in that mindset thinking we were going to go forward. We were going to do that till we retired and then we made a different decision. Chris, tell our listeners a little bit about like what were you doing in the corporate world and what made you decide to make a change?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the wireless industry for a while, and originally when I started, I guess you could say it was the bottom. I mean, it wasn't like the bottom, but it was definitely a lower end position.
Okay.
And through my time there, I did what most people strive to do when you're in corporate America, and that's climb that ladder. I mean, I held various positions, and I got promotions and raises and all that fun stuff, and my entire time there, and by the way, let me just make this very clear. Like, I loved my job. Like, I loved doing what I'm doing, or doing what I was doing in corporate America. I know that's kind of weird for some people to hear because they're like, oh, I got to get out of the cubicle. I got to get out of this mess. But I absolutely loved it. And with that said, though, there was something always like in my gut, in the back of my brain, whatever you want to call it, that this just was not meant for me. I was meant for something so much more, so much different. So
interesting, because we have a lot of listeners. I hear from folks that say, Jeff, I'm really interested in this entrepreneurship, but I don't hate my job. So
yeah.
Talk a little bit about like what was that thing going on in your gut?
Yeah, I couldn't explain it. It was just one of those things where like there's just something there. And I think what it was is I was just unfulfilled. Like like I just said, like I loved what I did. I loved the company, the people, my boss, like I absolutely loved. Again, kind of weird to say because I always hear the opposite, but I was just unfulfilled. You know what I mean? Like I knew that I always wanted to start my own thing. And I've had some experience with that in the past. I've been an entrepreneur. I've worked for myself, all that. But I don't know, like there's just certain things that would just turn me off about corporate America. Not so much to make me disgruntled, but it's like, if I could do what I want to do and feel genuinely fulfilled while providing for my family, because I am married, I have 2 small children, 5 years old and 2 years old. Okay. If I could create a lifestyle for them, for me, be fulfilled, make money, do the things that I want to do and be interested in, like, I'd much rather be all about that. Despite how much I loved my job, like, when you think about it, that's going to last how long, Mm-hmm. Like, I could stay there for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, who knows, right? Get a pension, do all that stuff. But imagine all the stuff I could be missing out on at the same time.
That's a really great point. And I love how you said, who knows how long that's going to last, right? I mean, your company could have been, it was in the wireless industry, so acquisition was not off the table.
Well,
I mean, it's probably pretty likely.
It happened. That's why I'm no longer there. My company was...
I'm jumping ahead in the story. Okay. So the point was, you had a situation that you liked in corporate, but there was potential for it to change, and it actually did change. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no problem. So my company was a large publicly traded company. And another company, which was even bigger, ended up buying us out. Now, the whole process, because of FCC and the government and approvals and all that, it was a long time. And we all knew it was coming. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it was coming. So what was interesting about that acquisition was they weren't just buying us to absorb us. They were buying us for just pure assets. They had no intention of keeping the brand. They had no intention of keeping the employees. They weren't going to offer anything where, hey, now you can come work for us because you're an employee of ours now. Like, not at all. They literally shut the doors, fired everybody, and took what they came for. And that was it. September 20th of 2013 was my final day walking out of our nice bougie office.
Wow. So you get the walking papers, you walk out of the office. What did you do? Like, what did you literally do when you walked out the door?
Honestly, like, I walked across the street with my boss, and we had like a 2-hour lunch, and we were just kind of like, some was like reminiscing and great times, and others it's like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? Then I went home and did nothing. it was surreal. Like I knew it was coming, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like when it actually happens, it's different. It's like having children. You know, your wife or girlfriend or whoever you get knocked up is pregnant, but when you're actually holding a baby, it's like, wow, this is for real. So that was kind of the feeling I had. I did what most people don't do, and I went to my wife and I said, let's go on the most lavish, awesome vacation we can. Because, by the way, they let us go and we got severance and they paid out my vacation, which, by the way, I never took a vacation while I was there.
Oh, okay.
Which sucked, but it ended up working out because now I had all this vacation pay. And I told her, I said, look, if we don't take a very nice vacation now, like who knows when we're ever going to be able to do it again. So I think we should do it. And we went to Italy for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Had a blast, came back. And my mind got nervous and anxious. And it's like, I need to find work. I have 2 small children. I need insurance. I need all this stuff. And, I ended up accepting a job. I hope I'm not going too fast.
No, you're cool. Go ahead.
I ended up accepting a job in New York and Brooklyn, to be exact, for extremely high income, like high 6-figure income, life-changing money for me and my family. Accepted the position. It's in the same industry. Flew out there the night before. We picked out a house. The night before we were supposed to sign the lease, we had one of those husband-wife conversations that happen usually about 11 o'clock at night and don't end until 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Like inconvenient time conversations. And what came out of that is I was going to turn the job down. I was going to start something on my own. No clue what it was. And that's it.
So you were going to get life-changing money.
Yes.
You were going to move to another part of the country. You'd picked out a house. You're getting ready to sign the papers. And at 11 o'clock at night, somebody says, maybe we should think about this.
Well, I went to her and I was like, I can't do this. I've been thinking about it. Like, this isn't for me. Mm. And she said, she's like, God bless her. She's like, it's funny you say that because I've been thinking for the past couple of weeks and I had a gut feeling that this isn't for you. You ever seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler?
I have not, no.
I always reference this movie whenever I talk about this because it's such the epitome of what I was feeling. In the movie, he finds some magic remote that he can fast forward his life. And in the movie, he does it. And he becomes successful and he's a big time business owner and he's rich and he's got the car and the house and blah, 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 blah. Because he was hitting that fast forward button, he wasn't mentally there for anything. He wasn't mentally there for vacations, for dinner, for experiences with the family, with the kid. Like he missed out so much in, I don't remember what it was. Let's just say it was like 20, 30 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that's all I kept thinking about. The house we picked in was in Staten Island. Right next to, I think it's the Verrazano Bridge, right? So I was close to work. All I could picture is every morning I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. I drive over that stupid bridge into Brooklyn. And during that time, while I'm sitting in my car, probably listening to talk radio or something, my kids are waking up. They're having breakfast. Dad's not going to be there for that. I work all day. Then I do the same thing coming home because of traffic. I'm familiar with the East Coast, so I knew there was going to be traffic, travel, all that other stuff. Probably going to miss out on dinner. Yeah, I'll get the weekend times, but like, what kind of life is that? You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm making just stupid money and we could afford nice things and nice cars and my son wants to play a sport, so I'll buy him all the sporting goods. Like, but what kind of life is that if I can't be there to experience it with him? What kind of life is that where I can't on a whim take off to go to some parent-teacher thing at a school or swoop up my wife and say, you know what, like it's been a while, let's go eat lunch at some fancy place on a Wednesday. Like none of that. You can't have any of that. Mm-hmm. Those high pressure, high paying positions.
But Chris, aren't you supposed to make sacrifices for your kids?
Yeah, but what kind of those? But what are those sacrifices? You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather make the type of sacrifice where I end up giving my son the last bite on my plate. Like that's the extent of, and that sounds selfish, but if I could create an environment, if I could create a life that's the extent of my sacrifices, then why the heck not? Like, there should be no reason. And you know what? Like, I'm going to get off on a little tangent here because I've been talking to a few people about this, by the way. Like, when did it become okay to just kind of take it on the chin. You know what I mean? Like, when did it be okay to just be like, you know what? Like, I got to make sacrifices. I have responsibilities. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a brother, whatever their case may be, right? Like, when did it become okay to just kind of put your head down and say, okay, well, this is life. Like, that's ridiculous. And I think that was the epiphany that I was having that night. It was in Edison, New Jersey, in my wife's grandmother's sewing room where we had that conversation. I'll never forget it. And I had the epiphany, like, when did this become okay? Why can't I go out and make the life for myself, for my family, that I want to have, that everybody wins, you know? Like, yeah, it's going to be tough. There's definitely going to be some sacrifices in the beginning. But if I can make those sacrifices now, only to live in what I envisioned and the lifestyle and money and all that for the rest of my life, like, I'd rather much take that gamble, because as I was just talking about, I had a 6-figure position and I was doing well and I had seniority, and in a blink of an eye, a business decision was made, that company was bought out, and now I was back at zero. Like, I don't want some company holding me by the balls. I want to have my own choice and my own destiny. Sorry for saying that, by the way.
Oh, it's okay. So, Chris, how do you think the decision that you have made about your life and how you're going to structure your life, how do you think that's going to affect your kids and how they live their lives in the future?
So I'll say this, and I'm only guessing at this point, because, like I just said, my sons, one's 5 years old, one's 2 years old. So this is like prime time for them to really like learn, and they're impressionable, and daddy this and daddy that. And my hopes, and I honestly believe this in my heart of hearts, my hopes is that they're going to, whether it's vicariously or what, they're going to learn from me that it's okay to make certain decisions that are off the beaten path. It's okay to have a passion or a feeling or fulfillment and go after that. It's okay that when all their friends are doing X, Y, and Z, and all their friends' parents are doing X, Y, and Z, it's okay to kind of stand up for yourself and say, hey, I don't believe in that. I want to do this. I want more out of life. I want more for myself. And this, by the way, could probably happen as early as elementary school, junior high, high school maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fascinating. And one of the things that that I've always thought about, and this is another thing that I hear from folks sometimes, and it really frustrates me, is they say, and we talked a little bit about sacrifices and kind of having to make sacrifices for your kids, but the thing that I always think about is, like, do adult kids, like maybe when their parents are getting older and maybe facing death, do adult kids look back and say, wow, my dad made a lot of money and he bought me a lot of cool stuff? I mean, is that real? Like, is that how we remember our parents? I don't think so.
Maybe if you're some like LA rich kid or something. I'm joking. But
what I think the LA rich kid says at the end of the day is, gosh, I wish I would have, I wish we would have had more time to spend together.
Yep. Oh yeah. Especially them. I mean, I was making a joke, but, it's often, it's like, man, I wish I had more time, or man, I just wanted a hug, or man, I just wanted an I love you, or man, I just wanted him to show up to practice once, like stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing stuff. I don't have kids, but I'm really passionate about this topic because I think what happens is, my mission in the world is all about helping people to see that there's a better way to live life than what we do. And when we start sacrificing, when we start making certain types of sacrifices, I'm not talking about the last bite of cheeseburger, because that's I get what you're saying there. But when we start making these sacrifices and we start setting a pattern of, well, the way to raise a good child is to live a miserable life in sacrifice for them, then all we've done is taught them that the way to raise a good child is to live a life in sacrifice for them, and then they perpetuate that. And then we continue this pattern of sacrifice.
And it shouldn't have to be.
It should not have to be. So tell us, Chris, a little bit. How did you change that? You didn't take the job in New York, You gave up all that six-figure money because you've got the best wife in the world.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say that because I've said that to no number of guests. I'm at some point I'm going to do like
there's a best wives club somewhere out there, and they're all there.
Yes. I'm going to do like the How to Quit Working most supportive spouse. I had a guy on the show a couple weeks ago. His wife was supportive of him quitting his job 1 week before their wedding. Crazy. Amazing how supportive some spouses could be. But anyway, what happened? What did you do instead of going to New York for that big money?
Well, first of all, once the honeymoon period was over, once I was like, yeah, I'm going to start a business and work for myself. Like once all that was over, because you go through
that part's easy.
yeah. You're like, your chest is all puffed up.
High-fiving, you got all kinds of ideas, and
Step into the man. I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What did I just do? Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. But, because of who I was surrounding myself with, because of who I was listening to, because of what I was reading, because of what I was watching, all the above, right? Because I created an environment of, success and inspiration and positivity. And I'm not hippy dippy one bit. However, I do believe the environment, you are the product of your environment, right? So I kept in that mindset, and I stayed along that path, and I started just toying around with a ton of ideas. That once upon a time, I owned a cafe a long time ago. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll start another cafe. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do some affiliate stuff online. Cause at this point, I'm like really starting to get into online stuff. Maybe I'll do some affiliate stuff. Maybe I'll do that. So I had tons of different ideas. And this entire time I'm listening to podcasts, and literally as simple as this is going to sound, I was listening to a podcast in my garage, doing some work, cleaning. And I said, why don't I just start a podcast? Like, that sounds like fun. I've always liked AM radio and talk radio and talking to awesome people and just why don't I just do that, but on the show? Okay, I'm going to create a show that interviews awesome people, and I'm going to try to interview as many awesome people as I can with guests that aren't really known in this space. And I just started kind of going from there, and it snowballed. So I went to my wife and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a podcast host. And she said, great, and smiled with one of those great and smiles. We're effed. We're screwed. He should have taken the job. She didn't say that, but I just saw it on her face. But that's what I did. And because of the position I was in, I had a little bit of runway, and I was able to focus on creating the best show as I can. And I had no idea how I was going to monetize it, because it was almost like I just had this blind faith that if I tried my hardest, if I worked my hardest, if I made very smart, sound, strategic business decisions, things will click. I will be okay. And my show launched February 12th of 2014. And at the time we're talking now, we're in, September. And the show is doing amazing. It is now a six-figure business, which, by the way, when I started the show, all I wanted was 10,000 downloads for the entire year. I think it was 10,000 downloads.
Wow.
For the entire year. And obviously I passed that, but it's just crazy how, when you're not really thinking about the money aspect, and this is going to sound counterintuitive. It's weird. I understand.
It's almost going to sound a little hippity dippity, I think, is where you're going.
It is, but this is the first time I've ever thought or have acted like this, because, you know what I mean? I've always been driven about money. I've always been driven about having a savings and all this, that, and the other, but at the same time, I had confidence in myself that I was going to be able to make it work. And by the way, my wife and I, totally on the same page in terms of, okay, if we have to eat top ramen for a month and our kids have to eat top ramen for a month or 6 months or whatever, to make this happen, we are prepared to do that. You know what I mean? I was prepared to what were we talking about before? Not suffering, but, suffering. I was prepared to suffer and do without and make sacrifice for this thing to work. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard and got sick of hearing about some guy in some closet somewhere, working on something for like 2 years, and then he just followed his dream and all this crap, and then all of a sudden he's some millionaire. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in my mid 30s. At the time I was thinking of this, my mindset has changed, but at the time I was like, look, I don't care about being a millionaire anymore. Like those things kind of like went away in my 20s. I don't freaking care. All I want is to live a life that I want to live. I want to pay my bills on time. I want to have some money in the bank. If I want to drink a Starbucks, I go drink a Starbucks. If I want to take my boys to the beach in the middle of the week on a whim, well, they're not in school, of course. Then I want to do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want that type of life. And I just, gun for that. Now I have different aspirations and different goals, that are way larger than when I started, but, that's what I did. And that's what I'm doing now. That beach, by the way, in the middle of the week, we just did that a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about how do you make money with a podcast?
So it's funny because the easiest way, once you build a huge audience, and what a lot of people do is sponsorships. You can make very lucrative money in sponsorships with your podcast. I, on the other hand, I don't know. Like there's something about it that's kind of unappealing, and let me tell you why.
Hang on, this episode of the How to Quit Working show is brought to you by... No, I'm just kidding.
That's why, right there. Like, I don't know. My show is very free-flowing. It could go anywhere. It could be light. It could be deep. It could be dark. It could be whatever. And it didn't sit well with me, to be like, and one day I was homeless and I was saving money for blah, blah. Hold on one second. And then do what you exactly just did. You know what I mean? But, if a company's going to pay me X amount of money per, let's say 1,000 downloads times however many average, or blah, 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 blah. It's a couple hundred per show. I mean, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
And God forbid one day I say something off color or they don't agree with, like, I essentially work for them. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, like, I want to have the free, and look, I don't know if, like, how many episodes of my shows you listen to. I don't cuss on the show. I don't say anything really off color or whatever. Like, one time I was talking about the mafia or big tobacco or whatever. Like, what if I have a sponsor that there's some type of, like, weird conflict of interest with a company I talk about? Or...
same parent company as a company that you don't like. Yeah. A million things could happen there.
A million things could happen. I'm busting my butt. I'm trying to get clicks. I'm trying to get listens for what? Or I could start my own thing. I can promote my own thing. I could do whatever I want because it's my own thing. And instead of getting, on average, I think the industry standard is like 40 something bucks per 1,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of that, why can't I pitch my own stuff for 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000, whatever I want? I have the audience. They've been with me forever. I'm talking in general now. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Like, we have the audience. They trust us. Yeah, they may trust us on a recommendation to sign up for a particular web service or I'm trying to, like, be very generalized without dropping these names, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, why can't they just do the same but for my own stuff and bust my freaking butt, by the way, if I'm going to be doing my own product? Like, I want you... Let me say it like this. I want to charge you for a Honda Civic, but I want to give you a Lexus with my own products. And that's what we're doing.
Amazing. So what are your products?
So there's technically only one. Okay. We do speaking engagements, and I do have some affiliates, and I do stuff through Amazon and Audible and stuff like that. I mean, we really don't pitch it on the show. And I say we because now I have a co-host. But we started an anti-mastermind coaching consulting group. And I say anti because it was born out of a frustration of a lot of the stuff that I've either been involved in or seen floating around on the internet or personally. I was very hesitant to start it. In fact, Lacey, my co-host, and I, we kind of sat on it for a while until we said, you know what? Like, let's be the change that we want to see. Let's stick a middle finger up and tell people, look, if you're going to join a group, you're not going to feel unfulfilled. You're not going to quote unquote graduate. You know how many groups out there, like they get what they need and they get to a point and it's almost like they graduate high school, but there's no college for them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, okay.
Like we wanted a group where you can get free private one-on-one consulting that is part of the package every month and not have to pay an arm and a leg. Like our group, I think, is extremely competitively priced, among others. And we kind of did that on purpose. Because again, it's like kind of sticking the middle fingers up, to all the others and then saying like, look, you're teaching them this. Well, we're going to do this. We're going to do it for less, and we're going to create success stories, because at the end of the day, all I want to do is help and inspire anybody, really, but people that listen to the show. And by doing so, I'm going to be able to change somebody's life in a positive way. And because of that, like that to me, and I'm just learning all this, within the past year or so about myself, but that to me is so rewarding and so fulfilling. That it will pay back. And it already has. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, it will. I don't know what it is, but there's been so many opportunities and doors opening up by doing this that it's just unbelievable. I mean, shoot, you and I were staying in some freaking mansion in wherever it was with a group of amazing people. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows?
It was a blast.
It was. And that's the type of experiences I'm talking about. That's the type of stuff. That's the type of life I wanted to live, like the middle of the week, we jet set down to some like bougie mansion and have a great time with like-minded people. And at the same time, had I not put myself in the position to have the opportunity to do that, like who knows what would have been.
Yeah. Being able to be around and have good conversations. I remember sitting out on that patio late into one night, having just great conversations with like-minded people. And I don't really know what else there is to life for me personally, but to just be able to talk with people and have really deep conversations. I mean, we had some deep conversations about marketing, about religion, about life. I mean, it was great stuff. And this is all about building a life that lets you do those amazing things that you love doing and that are just, for me, as I put it, all that really matters.
Heck yeah. And it's also one of those things that you don't know how good it is or great it is or how awesome it can be unless you experience it. It's like eating chocolate. Like you could be the world's most leader on chocolate, but until you stick a piece of chocolate in your mouth, you don't know crap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You don't know what it tastes like. Absolutely. Chris, what does success mean to you?
Right now, and I'm sure this will change because it's probably changed 15 times since I started this, but right now, to me, success means having the power of choice. Having the power of choice in my own life to be able to pay my bills, make money, go eat Thai food in the middle of the day if I want, interview a specific guest because I want to have this specific guest, go to my son's baseball games and not miss a single practice or a game, which real quick, let me go backwards for a second. Sure. When I was in corporate America, my son started T-ball. I probably was only able to go to about 3 games. No practices. I missed so much. Now he's back in fall ball or club ball, whatever they're calling it. And I've been to every practice. I've been to every game. Well, he's only had a couple, but I'm able to go. Why? Because I have the choice in my life and the position that I've put myself in to be able to go.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly. And if you don't have kids, real quick, if you don't have kids, take kids out of the picture.
Yeah.
If you want to jet set with your girlfriend or boyfriend or you just by yourself on a plane somewhere, because when you don't have kids, you tend to have a lot more money. But you could jump on a plane and go see a concert that you want to see or go eat somewhere. And you don't have to be some like millionaire to do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you could be just doing pretty well, but have the choice of like, oh my gosh, this band is in LA. I live in Las Vegas. LA is like 4 hours away. Oh my gosh, this band is playing on Wednesday night. I freaking love them, but they're not coming to Vegas. You know what? Let me just jet set down to LA on a little road trip and go see this band that I've always wanted to see or whatever. Like,
yeah.
that you have the choice to do it. So if you're working in corporate America, they have the choice. You have to ask them, can you mind, with your hands in your pockets, can I have time off because I'm sick, or because whatever lie you want to tell them? Because God forbid you go and you say, hey, this band that I love, I've never seen, they're playing in LA and I want to just run off and do a road trip. You said that to them, depending on the company, but I guarantee you a fat percentage, they're going to look at you like you're freaking crazy, write in your file or tell HR, like, hey, we need to keep an eye on this one. Because
Keep an eye on this one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want, like, why? It doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
I get real passionate, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. We love passion here. Chris, tell us a little bit about the Cerrone Show and who might want to listen to that and where they'd go to listen to it.
Absolutely. Well, the first step, you just got to go to CerroneShow.com. That is like the mothership. That's where the podcast lives. That's where all my social media is. So you can find me.
I'll be linked down below.
Thank you. The Cerrone Show, the Chris Cerrone Show, which has a co-host, by the way, because I didn't start with a co-host. It's evolved into a co-host. It's me and my co-host, Lacey Urcioli, and we interview anyone from entrepreneurs, entertainers, YouTube celebrities, some guy creating a dog leash out of his kitchen, which we have, by the way. And it's really sharing their journey and sharing their inspiration. And, you know, one day you may hear some crazy, funny, awesome story and you're just entertained. And then another, you may hear a step-by-step tutorial on how to schedule Instagram posts. You know what I'm saying? So, okay. We entertain, we educate, we just have a blast, and we're just trying to be us and do us.
Excellent. Well, we'll link that up below. And Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your journey, your story, and telling us a little bit about how do you deal with kids when you're doing this. Great stuff. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing what amazing things you do. Thanks for having me. This was awesome. Thanks again. Great advice from Chris Cerrone of The Cerrone Show. You know, I just, the whole thing about having kids, I was so glad to have Chris on because, you know, I can give my opinions, and I've given my opinions about that before. I think that generally in our society, we just sacrifice too much for our kids, and we teach them that sacrificing for your kids is the way to go, and then they sacrifice for their kids, and it just doesn't make sense. But when I talk about it, it's just some unqualified guy spouting off his opinion. But when someone like Chris talks about it, who actually has kids and has actually made the tough decisions that I think a whole lot more people need to make, I think it carries a lot more weight. And I love what he said, you know, the sacrifices for your kids is about giving them the last bite of food on your plate, not living a life of misery so that you can buy them more stuff, which they won't really remember or care about in the long run anyway. Great stuff from Chris. I think he's a great inspiration to just really put what matters first. And while he has made what probably in the short term is a financial sacrifice, I think in the long term it's going to be a much better financial decision for him as well as lifestyle decision to have started his own business. Great stuff. Check him out over at thecerroneshow.com. It's a very different show than this one. It's much more laid back, kind of goes all over the place, but it's really fun to listen to. So it's going to be linked up below. Check that out. Also send him a tweet on Twitter and thank him for being on the show. Reach out to him if you'd like. And if you want to keep having this conversation with people like Chris, go over to the How to Quit Working Circle on Facebook. Just go to howtoquitworking.com/group. Click Join Group, and we'll get your request approved right away. And then you can jump into the conversation and start networking and talking with awesome people just like you who are looking to create an amazing lifestyle of freedom. I will talk to you next time, where we're going to talk to another amazing person like Chris and have a blast. Until then,
thanks for joining us on the How to Quit Working Show. Tune in next time when we'll talk to another amazing person just like you who is now living the ultimate life of freedom and doing it on their terms. If you want to learn how to quit working and get these episodes delivered directly to you, visit howtoquitworkingshow.com.